Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing a fun tag. So this is the comfort reading tag, and I just saw this recently on the Book Castle, aka Alice's YouTube channel. I will link her video down below. And the first channel that created this tag is called The Babbling Bee. I will also link her video down below. So this tag, as you can probably guess from the title, is all about comfort reads, and I figured, one, I talk about tons of cozy mysteries on my channel. I really enjoy a good comfort read, of course, but then also there's just so much going on in the world right now that's just, it's so sad, it's heavy. I feel like the atmosphere for a lot of people has been very heavy recently, for even a few years with everything going on, unfortunately. So I thought this would be a fun tag to kind of highlight some of my favorite comfort reads I turn to kind of, you know, just disappear and to enjoy some comfort from the literary world. So leave me a comment down below, what are your favorite comfort reads, and let's go and hop into the first question. Okay, so if you see me looking down, I have the questions on my phone here. The first one is, the kettle's on, a book of steadfast comfort, always there for you, makes any day better like a cup of tea or your favorite warm drink. So this one was actually one of the harder ones for me. So I immediately thought of cozy mysteries because I do read a lot of cozies. So the two that kind of tied off for me are two of the cozy mystery series I kind of originally got into, and they're also both food themed ones, which kind of have a very comforting vibe to me. I enjoy reading about food. I enjoy thinking about food. Who doesn't? So the first series I think I ever read as a cozy mystery was the Pizza Lovers Mystery series by Cavender. This is the first one, I believe, in this series. It's called A Slice of Murder, and it's absolutely just so much fun. The sisters in this are the main characters, Eleanor Swift and her sister Maddie, who's a little more quirky, extroverted, pushy, and Eleanor, who's a little more reserved, and is the main character of this read. And the descriptions of food in this will make you salivate when you're reading this. It's a really great, compelling, cozy mystery series. It's something I've reread, which is kind of rare for me to reread mystery series because, you know, once you know who did it, it's a little less exciting to read a mystery, but these are so good I've gone back and reread them. The other one that came to mind was the Cupcake Bakery Mystery series by Jenn McKinlay. This particular one is Caramel Crush. I believe the first one is called Sprinkled to Death. I'll pop a picture on screen for you. But again, this one actually involves a best friend and our main character who run their fairy tale cupcake bakery, and the relationship between the two is just so much fun. It's kind of a three-way best friendship with the two main characters and Tate, and he's kind of an investor in the cupcake bakery series, or the cupcake bakery in the series, I should say. And they just have a delightful relationship. I love reading about them. It's like reading about people you know. It's very comforting and warming, and no matter what happens, no matter if they fight or bicker or whatever the drama is in that mystery series, they always they always end up solving things and continuing to show that friendship will prevail no matter what. And that's in and of itself kind of a comforting thing, especially when you are maybe having something rocky happening in your own personal life. I like this series. It's very soothing, if you will. So our next prompt is Grandmother's Quilt. This one was really fun. A book that reminds you of a loved one or a comforting book that was given to you or read aloud to you by someone dear. So I took this a little literally because of the grandmother's part, and I have two that kind of struck me specifically, so I'm going to share those now. Okay, so the first one's going to sound a little strange, especially for something called comfort reads, but my grandmother was really into Walt Whitman, especially the O Captain, My Captain poem by him. She was a big history buff, and so his poems, even though they're about the Civil War, are somewhat nostalgic in a strange way to me because she would read them to me. So they're really, I think it's the only poetry I own, actually. I'm not the biggest poetry reader, I will admit, but some of his writing, it's very beautiful, it's very lyrical. The nature scenes that he describes are gorgeous. I especially love the O Captain, My Captain one, and I also love history, so it's interesting to see, just how he intertwined what was happening in the world at the time and the poetry. So this one is nostalgic for that reason. But the other one that came to mind was the Breadshop mystery series that I've been talking to death, I know, but it's really good because there's a character in this book that helps Ivy, our main character, and she is old enough to be Ivy's grandmother, and she has a very spunky, fun personality, and she reminds me of my own grandmother, who unfortunately is no longer with me. And yeah, so these would be the ones that like remind me of my grandmother, so I would say those would be my best ones for the grandmother's quilt prompt. The next one is Warm Spices, a book with particularly vivid prose or imagery, a story comforting in its richness, depth, or vibrance. Maybe I have strange taste for comforting reads because I'm thinking about this now, and the plot for these books are definitely not the most uplifting, but I really love how Charles Dickens describes things. My husband got this for me, I want to say for Christmas last year. It has 5 different novels in it, and I'm working my way through it, and Dickens just has a way with words. His writing is beautiful. You really feel like you're walking down the streets of London. You can feel like the heaviness of the air on you as you walk. So even though this maybe is not the most like comforting ever read, it's really immersive, so it takes you out of like, it's a good escapism, and his writing is so vivid. So for me, this really embodies the warm spice feel because you can practically smell the air as you're reading Dickens. My personal favorite, I always read The Christmas Carol around Christmas, so you know, of course that is extremely comforting. But I would say otherwise, probably A Tale of Two Cities is my other favorite. I've read Oliver Twist, I've read Great Expectations. I'm still working on David Copperfield. That one I'm working on, which apparently is supposed to be kind of like semi-auto, like it's a bit of like a biography on himself that he did, written within the book. So I'm really interested in that, but yeah, I would say Dickens for me has some of the most beautiful descriptions out there, so I had to throw this in here. This book is heavy, but it is really beautiful. If you are a fan of Charles Dickens, this is a great like piece to have, because it has The Christmas Carol, it has Oliver Twist, A Tale of Two Cities, David Copperfield, and Great Expectations, so kind of the really big Dickens. And yeah, this is just, it's incredible. I love reading Dickens because it's so immersive, and he really gives like a very clear picture of the characters in his writing and the setting, and even though it's not the most like bright or vivid setting, it's still beautiful in a sense, so I really enjoy that. Okay, so our next one is called Candlelight, a book that keeps you going or encourages you when things feel dark. So for me, I had to think about this because I'd already picked out for some of the other prompts ones that would have fit this as well, but this was another favorite, and this is A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett, and this has been a long-term favorite of this. I think my mom bought this for me when I was like fairly young. I've reread it at least 5 times or so, and it's basically a story of a girl named Sarah Crewe, and she's known as the Little Princess because her father is very well off. She doesn't have a mother, but her father leaves her at this, I don't want to say, it's like a school for girls basically, because he's going to India to strike out some business deals and whatnot, and it ends up, news comes back that her father is like dead basically. So her headmistress is very upset and ends up being like, well, no one's providing for you, you have no one left in the world, you're just like a hermit basically, you have no money, and ends up, you know, putting her into like working for the school as like a servant. And it's just about this girl who truly takes very bleak, very sad, and even I think you could argue at some points abusive circumstances, but she makes them beautiful and looks at the world with magic, and it's very heartwarming. It definitely has like some sad parts, but it's a very magical, like I like how it says it here on the back, an inspiring tale of a mistreated but determined girl. So for me, this would be like that Candlelight, like when things are kind of tough, it's a good read to kind of remind yourself that, you know, circumstances can be rough, but we can still kind of choose to look at them in a more optimistic way, or to kind of work to infuse as much magic as we can into our own day-to-day lives. So I really enjoy this. It's a sentimental read, it's a comfort read, and it just has a very inspirational like feel to it. So the next prompt is In Bed All Day. You've got your warm drink, a cozy blanket, maybe your grandmother's quilt. What do you read when you're curled up in bed all day, or for a couple of hours anyways? So for me, the things that I have been binging in bed that I've just been reading have been the Bakeshop mysteries by Ellie Alexander. This has my library's name on it, so I'm just covering that. I'll put a full picture on screen so you can see it a little bit better. This particular one is called A Crime of Passion Fruit. Some Sweets Can Make You Go Overboard, and it's just all of her Bakeshop mysteries. The setting is beautiful and on point. This one is actually on a cruise ship, so it takes place outside of the hometown, Ashland, Oregon, but it's so beautiful, it's so immersive. The characters are amazing. I'm always flipping through the pages, not quite knowing who did it. Sometimes I guess correctly, sometimes I don't. Right now I'm on page 200 and I'm hoping to read this and finish this up tonight because I really want to know who did it. But every time I'm reading a Bakeshop mystery, like, I'm engaged with it. It's something I can sit there and read for hours and be very happy with, you know, like it's just a great series. This is like the 6th book in the series, so it's not, so I've like gotten to know the characters enough that every time I now open a Bakeshop mystery, it's very much like returning to a different world that's like a home of mine. Like, I've been there many times, I've engaged with the characters, I know their backstories, they're all very well written and fleshed out, so it's really delightful. It's a great comfort read. It's a great like read in bed for a couple of hours on a Saturday kind of read if you can, and so I would really recommend the Bakeshop Mystery by Ellie Alexander. So our next prompt is Endless Comfort, a book that brings you solace no matter how many times you reread it. This was easy because as soon as I read the word reread, I immediately thought of the book that I have reread the most in my life, and that is Little Woman by Louisa May Alcott. I have read this at least a dozen times. The words to this at this point now are, I can flip to like any page and know exactly where I am in the story, and everything is just so like natural. It's like, again, it's like the Bakeshop series. I really know the characters well. Every time I open a page, it's like I'm returning home again to like a beautiful world, and it's a great comfort read because, again, the 4 sisters, the March sisters, who are the main characters of Little Women, they go through a lot of trying times. I mean, their father's off at war, they're struggling in, I don't know if poverty might be a little bit of a stretch, but they're definitely financially struggling, and it's just a very rough time in America at the time that this book was going on, so there's a lot going on, but the sisters always find a way to rise above their circumstances and to just keep going forward with a positive attitude, trying to figure out how to make the most of it. And you also, what I love throughout this book is you see the characters really grow and develop because they age throughout the book, like significantly, like enough where one of the characters is like a older teenager at the beginning, but then ends up like married and with children at the end, you know, so you really get to see like the progression of what happens to each of the March sisters, what is their like adult life, what does it end up like, and it's really cool to see where they started and to see where they end and the difference and how their attitude in life made a difference. And it's such a comforting read. It's hugely nostalgic for me. Again, this was when my parents got me. It has like water stains. It's like a dirty book, but honestly, even if I found like a beautiful edition of Little Women that I really wanted because it's a favorite book of mine, I would never be able to get rid of this particular one because it's so well loved. Even the little bookmark at the end has like tape on it because it's very worn, but it's beautiful. If you have not read Little Women, it's one of the best classics in my opinion. It's just so incredible, and I feel like it would be especially comforting to read, especially maybe with what is going on in the world and all of the sadness and things that are happening. So it's just a great comfort read. It's one of my favorites. Okay, so number 8 is Portable Hope, a book that restores your faith in humanity, faith in life, faith in yourself, a book that says it's going to be okay, the world is full of good things, and tomorrow will be better. So this was a fun one for me because I just recently picked this up in my birthday library haul, and this has been a long-term favorite of mine, and so I'm really excited to own my own copy of it, and that is Anne of Green Gables. Is this not the most beautiful? This is the Classic Seasons edition. I'll link this, and everything else I'm talking about will be linked down below in the description, but it's like the most beautiful book ever. It has like a gorgeous quote on the back, like beautiful inside cover, like there's quotes and stuff in here. It's just, I'll link the library book haul video as well, so if you want to check that out, it'll be in the cards and description if you want to see more about these season classic editions, because I did get a few in that haul, and it's amazing. But this is an amazing one for that gives you hope, because Anne is one of the most hopeful characters in literature to me. She is it starts off, she's an orphan and she thinks she's getting adopted, but only to find out that the family who picked her up was mistaken because they actually wanted a boy. So the husband picked her up thinking this was who they were adopting, only for his wife to be like, we were supposed to be adopting a boy to help out around the house, not a girl. And she's very, you know, at the beginning she feels very unwanted by society because, you know, her hair is very like orangey, carrot colored, and she's got freckles and she's lanky and she's just, you know, not super accepted into society, especially with her personality, which is so vivid and hopeful and creative and spontaneous, and she has a bad temper, and she's just a very likable, realistic character. Like, I feel like I definitely can empathize with a lot of those qualities, and it's amazing to see her grow and to see her use her creativity and her hope to just build a future for herself and to build a family. And it's just one of those books you have to read it. It's beautiful. I'm going back now. I want to reread this and like Anne of Avonlea, I want to say it is. I'm not sure quite how to say it, but yeah, I gotta go back and read this. It's so beautiful. So now that I have my own copy, very excited. And this is just, again, one of my favorite hopeful reads. And just the way that L.M. Montgomery like writes has this beautiful, like, she writes beautiful descriptions of nature. Anne herself is very much outdoors a lot. And the way she writes fills you with hope. Like, it's just beautiful and uplifting. So I'll stop babbling on this book, but it is absolutely just divine. If you haven't read it, it's a must read in my opinion. Okay, this next one was really fun. This is called A Basket for Your Neighbor. Just as it's lovely to be comforted by books, it can be lovely to pass the comfort along. Imagining you are putting together a cozy comfort basket for your neighbor, which book would you include? So for me, I thought about it for a moment, and it was actually a book I checked out at the library, so I don't own a copy, but it's called Dickens' Carol, and this book is not The Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, but it's actually like a historical fiction retelling of Charles Dickens as he was writing The Christmas Carol and like different bad things that were happening in his life, and the writing and setting is stunning. Like, you truly feel like, just like with Dickens' own writing, you feel like you're walking with him in the London streets and you feel like his pain and sorrow, and there's a beautiful kind of twist to the book that I'm not going to get into, but it's just uplifting and hopeful and comforting, and anything to do with the holidays, for me anyways, is very comforting. So again, it's not, you can read it any time of year, but it does have a, you know, more Christmassy, wintry vibe to it. But that's a book I would include because I feel like a lot of people would enjoy that read. A lot of people, you know about the Christmas Carol story, but they don't know the details of what brought Dickens to writing it. So I'm not sure that this is a historical retelling, so I'm sure it's not completely accurate, but there's definitely some real details in there, and the author's very creative in her use of that. So I would include that in a basket for someone that I didn't know very well, that I wanted to comfort or encourage, especially if it was around the holidays. That would be my pick. And the last one is A Walk in the Woods. Though we'd like to stay curled up indoors with our books forever, or at least I would, we've got to venture into the world again sometime. A walk in the woods always helps me feel refreshed. Tell us about a book with beautiful nature writing or a book that restores your peace. Maybe I have an odd sense of peace, but Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is one of my favorite, one of my most well-read, reread books. If you have not read Daphne du Maurier's writing, I would recommend any of it. I've recently read My Cousin Rachel this year for the first time. That was stunning. I read Frenchman's Creek last year. I've read some of her short stories. All of her writing is atmospheric. That is the word I would use if you had to describe her writing in one word: atmospheric. So any scene about like the English Cornish like coast with the sea, beautiful. Her writing of like the rhododendrons and Rebecca is stunning. Like, you feel like you're walking the path, you can smell the air, you can see the flowers. Everything is so beautifully described. And then it's not a nature scene, of course, but in itself, the famous house in Rebecca is called Manderley, like this giant estate, and the descriptions of Manderley just make me like just so happy. Like, they're so beautiful, and like I can picture right now, I can't remember what the room is called. It's like a room where the main character was writing like letters. like a day room, I think, and I can picture the setup of the room right now because of how vividly and beautifully, but like the writer wrote it. Sometimes you can, like, writers will kind of sidetrack me with their long descriptions and it's kind of seems unnecessary, or like it's kind of boring, or it's not interesting, but she incorporates her descriptions of the setting so beautifully that I just want more and more and more, and I can still clearly picture the details about like the twisting rhododendrons and things as you go up the drive of Manderley. Like, beautiful. Beautiful. So even though, like, I mean, this is like a suspenseful read, which I personally enjoy. I like reading books that really suck me in, so like the cozy mysteries, classic mysteries, suspense reads are great for me. To me, they are comforting, even though the topic may not seem like the most comforting topic, but the writing in this, the prose, the beautiful descriptions of both nature and Manderley are so beautiful. They're so beautiful. Like, I'm tearing up a little bit. So I would definitely recommend this if you have not read Daphne du Maurier, especially Rebecca, but also I love My Cousin Rachel just as much. I know that's probably a little bit of a hot take for people who enjoy those books, because Rebecca is kind of the most well-known, most like well-loved of DuMaurier's work, but I loved My Cousin Rachel. That was a piece of work. Like, I'm definitely going to be rereading that. Like, my mind was just completely absorbed into that book. It was more haunting a little bit to me than this, but they were both amazing. So I would recommend DuMaurier's writing for that. And that is the end of this tag. So again, thank you so much to the Babbling Bee for coming up with this amazing tag. I will have her links down below, as well as Alice from the Book Castle, who I originally saw this tag filmed on, like, her channel. I'll link both of their videos and channels down below. If you want to do this tag, if you have a channel, I'm tagging you. And if you don't have a channel, just leave me a comment down below answering at least one of these questions, because I would love to know what comfort reads you return to, which ones you recommend. Do you have an author in particular, or like a series that's very comforting to you, like the Bakeshop series for me, or anything by Daphne du Maurier is very, like, absorbs me fully, and like the writing is very atmospheric and comforting in a strange way to me. So let me know your thoughts down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I do post book content every single week, especially with a heavy focus on mystery content. So if you like mysteries, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!